Hello and welcome to another edition of Only in Illinois, your weekly video recap from Reboot Illinois. I'm Madeline Dubeck here with Matt Dietrich, and we're coming to you from the lobby of the James R. Thompson Center in downtown Chicago after we had a long, nice visit with Treasurer Mike Frerichs on the first anniversary of his first year in office, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm. Treasurer Frerichs was eager to share with us some of what he considers his successes in his first year in office, and he also talked about some of the frustrations that came with what's been a very overall frustrating year in state government.
Well, when we first came in, the very first thing we did was go out for an audit of the office. Wanted to have some outside eyes look at how the office is being run, make some recommendations about how to run it better. And then also to help us put together a blueprint for moving forward. And so some of the highlights, I think, as we came in, we had one of our 529 college savings plans up for bid. We put that out for an RFP. We negotiated very hard. We eliminated startup fees. We eliminated quarterly fees. We reduced investment management fees by 43%. And we were awarded this fall with a credit upgrade from Morningstar rating agency. So at a time when the state of Illinois has experienced multiple credit downgrades, we saw an actual improvement in one of our plans, our 529 plans. That was probably well, it's a real problem. And although I don't have a seat at the table, I've tried to use my bully pulpit to direct some attention to this issue. A lot of people ask, why is the treasurer involved with this issue? One, as I just said, higher education was really important to me. It was because of federal support and need-based financial aid that I was able to go to college. And I look at these young people who did everything right. They worked hard. They were told that, if you work hard, you can go to college and we'll help you. They applied, they got these grants, they got a letter in the mail saying you've qualified for a MAP grant, and now they show up on campus and say the money's not there. And now they're being told 6 months later, actually you'll probably have to pay that back yourself. I just think that's wrong. Now, if you look at other groups that have gone and gotten their funding released, they're either members of unions, or they have lobbyists, they have lawyers, there's an association out there representing them, and they've gone to court and they've gotten this stuff. But these students don't have lawyers, and they don't have lobbyists, and no one is really speaking up on their behalf. And since the state treasurer is in charge of college savings plans, I think that it was appropriate for me to talk about the need to fund these college scholarships. We have received correspondence or communications from the governor's office and the media that they don't want a piecemeal approach. And I get that. I understand you should have a full budget. But I would say that the governor started this piecemeal approach when he decided to fund K through 12 education, when he decided to have his attorneys argue on behalf of paying state employees, when the court said you have to pay Medicaid payments for children, said, well, we're just going to pay all Medicaid payments. He started a piecemeal approach, and I'm just saying that if you're going to have that approach, you're going to say that education is important, education doesn't necessarily stop at the 12th grade. It hurts our ability to bring in money. First thing I would say is this is a revenue generating office. For every dollar we spend, we bring in $28 to the state. Now, it's a difficult environment right now to earn much in the way of interest, just because interest rates have been at historic lows. We're starting to see them creep up, which is going to help us. But your ability to bring in money is a product of two things. One, the interest rates you're getting, and the interest rate is a product of how long you're able to invest. So when we have larger cash reserves and we have some stability and predictability, we're able to make some longer term investments which make for a higher return. But right now we've had to take some of our longer term investments and put them in shorter term because we don't know when this money is going to be needed. We don't know when money is going to be running out. And so at the end of the day, this isn't going to break the budget, but it hinders our ability to get a good return or the best return possible for the state. And when we're bringing in fewer dollars, that is more dollars that the General Assembly needs to raise in new revenue, or deeper cuts they need to make in what are important services. And I had much greater say in the budget as a senator than I do as state treasurer, which is frequently surprising. People, when you're out on the street, they'll say things like, go and pass the budget. And I try and tell them the treasurer doesn't have a role in the budget. I said, what do you mean the treasurer doesn't have a role in money? I said, well, I'm the chief investment officer. The budget is the responsibility of the governor and the General Assembly. Well, I think it's the same disappointment that everyone else has, the fact that there's not a budget in place. When I first came into the Illinois Senate, it was in 2007. And if you remember, that was the year that Blagojevich kept calling the General Assembly back into session day after day all summer long.
We didn't pass the gross receipts tax.
Yes, and that was a big fight. We fought against that one, but when we finally passed a budget in mid-August, people said, well, that's historic. We're not going to do something like that again. We now find ourselves in our 7th month without a budget, and everything else, the state has other issues, I think are just secondary to the lack of a budget. As I said in my office, it makes it difficult for us to plan investments without some certainty, and the same thing with the business community. They don't know if and when tax rates are going to change. They can't plan if they're getting support from the state or just know what's going forward. It creates a lot of uncertainty, and people aren't really interested in making investments in a time of uncertainty. So I'm not intimately involved in this, but it's clear I think both sides have said that there's going to need to be new revenue.
Yep.
Now, how much depends on how much you're willing to cut. At the end of the day, you have to have something balanced here. But the governor, I think, has said he wants some other things first. I get that. There are other things I would like to see passed in the General Assembly. But right now, I think you just need to focus on passing a balanced budget, telling people in this state and creditors around the country that we can function, we can govern ourselves, and we can move forward. And those other things you don't just give up on, but perhaps you wait a little while longer or take another approach to them. Because if you look at the people who have a workplace saving mechanism where it's automatically deducted from their paycheck, either to go into their pension or to go on their 401k, those people save at somewhere around an 85% rate for retirement. They're doing a good job. But those people who work in an employer that doesn't have a workplace option, it's more like 10 to 15% are adequately saving enough. And it's not because those people are dumb. It's not because people don't know they need to do this. They think about it all the time, and they say, well, I had to put some money away for retirement, but the car broke down. I need to pay that bill now. Or, hey, I also want to take my family on vacation. I'm going to start saving for vacation, or I need to save for other things. If it's not easy and automatically taken out, people just don't do it. So what we're going to do is set up a new program called Secure Choice. It's going to make it easier for people. So about 1.2 Illinoisans, when we get this up and running, will have a workplace saving option. Automatic payroll deduction of automatic 3%. They can change that number if they want. They can opt out if they want. No employee is required to do this, but we're requiring they have that option at their workplace. And we think if we do that, no one is going to retire on those caviar dreams you used to see on the Lifestyles of Rich and Famous. But they're going to have a nest egg set aside for them when it comes time for retirement. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And it's going to allow families with special needs children to save for their future, for perhaps when they are gone, to give them a little nest egg that doesn't count against their Social Security disability insurance limits. And it's going to allow that growth in that account to be tax-free and used for certain things related towards their care. I've talked to parents who just are so scared and anxious for what happens when they're no longer here. Who's going to look after their Johnny or Sally? Because someone's going to need to. And the idea of sending them off to a group home with no resources is just not the kind of life they envision for their kids. This is going to allow them to put something aside to give their kids a little more. And we're really excited to be setting that up.
Good interview. Got to know the treasurer a little bit, and we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next edition of Only in Illinois.